All right, back to something that's a little bit more you're more used to with my course here. This is the 69th day, the fourth video. One of those was extremely short when I showed you that chart. And we're back in the chronological survey. Greek mythology is behind us. I'd like to remind you that Edith Hamilton's mythology or Bullfinch's mythology are ones that I highly recommend if you want to get. There are so many stories there. I've thought a little bit about, in my retirement, my wife and I may get a new copy of one of them and read them to each other aloud. All right, but anyway, we're going on to Homer. Homer he's legendary. They can't prove that he ever lived, really, but we have his epics, two of them, the Iliad and the Odyssey. I'll tell you about the Odyssey soon. Today's Friday, so early next week I'll be telling about the Odyssey. Well, the Iliad actually begins in the 10th year, I think, of the Trojan War. Homer, if he lived at all, when he sang this, he lived around the Iliad around 800 BC. He was singing about the Trojan War, which was some 400 years earlier. And again, legendary, Bronze Age. It's been hard to prove exactly did this happen, but there's been so much written about it. Well, to understand the story, and I'll just run it by you here very quickly. There was a wedding on Mount Olympus, and Discordia was a goddess. That looks like a Roman name. I don't know what a Greek, maybe that's a Greek name. She was not invited because there was discord everywhere she went. She always caused a problem. And she was angry. And so here's what she did. She took an apple, a golden apple, solid gold, and wrote on it, "To the fairest." It belonged to the fairest, the most beautiful. Rolled it into the ceremony when everything was going on. And of course, I like to tell the kids, if a golden apple rolled into the classroom and it said, "This is the most beautiful girl in the room," well, some of the girls might think, well, it couldn't be me because they might be humble. Well, not the goddesses. Hera figured, I'm goddess, I'm the queen of the gods. It's mine. Athena felt she was no slouch, and Aphrodite, convinced, oh, yeah, that's mine. Well, anyway, it was going to be a big fight who got the golden apple. So they decided they would have to have somebody judge, and it couldn't be a god. So they chose Paris, Prince of Troy. He was going to be the judge. And Aphrodite bribed him, said, "Hey, you choose me, and I'll give you, for your own, the most beautiful woman on earth." Well, that was Helen of Troy, she's known as. Well, Paris chose her, so now he got Helen of Troy. There was a problem, though. Helen of Troy was King Menelaus's, I might have that spelled wrong, King Menelaus's wife. She was already married. Paris figured, I don't care. She's mine. I'm going to go get her. So he kidnaps her. And she goes willingly. He goes there to visit. Well, this means war. Agamemnon, Menelaus's brother, assembles an army. Menelaus is there too. And 1,000 ships set sail to get her back. Hers is known as the face that launched 1,000 ships. She was so beautiful that 1,000 ships set sail because of her beauty. Agamemnon actually sacrificed his own daughter, Iphigenia, to get the god's blessing, for something that he paid for when he came home 10 years later. His wife was waiting for him to get him. But that's a whole other story. Achilles was among them. Achilles was their champion. He was the best fighter. His mother, Thetis, had dipped him in the river Styx as a baby, and so he couldn't be injured, except she'd held his heel, and the water never touched his heel, so he had that one spot. That's his bane. That's this hero's bane, his heel. And we talk about your Achilles heel as your one weak spot. Well, Hector was the champion of the Trojans. This was the Greeks or the Achaeans against the Trojans. And but the Trojans just, if the day went badly, they just went back into Troy, closed the gates, and rested up and fought some more. Well, Achilles, I maybe should have put down Briseis there, because Achilles had a slave girl, Briseis, that he really liked. And at a certain point, Agamemnon demanded his slave girl. He wanted Briseis. Well, Achilles was really put out. He said, "Okay, you have Briseis, but I'm not going to fight for a king that doesn't value me. If that's the little bit you value me, I'm not going to fight in your wars anymore." Well, so he sits in his tent basically and pouts. And when the Trojans realized Achilles was not on the field, hey, this was going great. because they basically ran away from Achilles. They knew no one could beat Achilles, but he wasn't there. And it went so badly at one point that Patroclus, who was Achilles' cousin, I think, went to Achilles and said, I know you're not going to fight, you're too proud, but loan me your armor. Let me put your armor on, so if I go into battle, it could frighten them and maybe save the day, because the Greeks are going to lose. Well, Achilles wasn't happy about this, but he decided, all right, you can do that. So they go into battle and it works. They're terrified, off they go. But Hector kills Patroclus and then takes his armor as a war prize. And so now Hector has got Achilles' armor. Achilles goes back into battle. Now he doesn't care who wins. He just wants to get Hector. And he chases Hector. And around and around they go. Hector knows he can't win, but he's deceived. The goddess Athena was rooting for the Greeks. See, the gods, Apollo rooted for the Trojans, I think, and they were taking part. They shouldn't have. Zeus had told them not to, but Athena did anyway. Whispered into Hector's ear in the form of a fog that he would stand a chance. So Hector stopped, turned, and fought Achilles, and was killed. And Achilles, sure, that was okay. Next week, I want you to hear some of this poetry. I'm going through this story very fast right now, but I want you to hear some of this poetry. Achilles refuses to deal with Hector before they fight. And he says, when I kill you, I'm going to let the dogs eat your body instead of giving it back. And Hector Achilles is so angry. After he kills Hector, he ties a rope to his heels and drags his body by his chariot. Uses his chariot and drags his body back and forth below the gates of Troy in the dirt. This is the Trojan champion. Up there is his wife and children and father. Priam is the name of his father. Yeah, I think. Anyway, that offends the gods. And it's Apollo, I think, later on directs an arrow so that it hits Achilles in the heel, and Achilles is killed for his hubris, I suppose you could say in a way. But what ends it? And I don't think I'm sure it doesn't happen in the Iliad, but it's part of the whole story, is Odysseus, clever Odysseus, comes up with a trick. And that's the very famous Trojan horse. They sail away, they leave a huge wooden horse on the beach, which is to be understood as a war prize. It's hollow. Inside the horse is a small company of men. Well, the Trojans are tricked really into taking that inside the walls and enclosing it, and they party. The war's gone on for 10 years, and so they party late into the night. The Greeks have sailed away. In the middle of the night, then the small company of men get out. All they have to do is overpower the guards at the gates, open the gates because the Greeks have come back. They go pouring into the city, they sack the city, and so ends the Trojan War. Well, that was very rapidly told, but I want you to know the story. Oh, and since it's Friday, if you wanted to look at something this weekend, the movie Troy does a pretty good job of this. When I was a kid, in the 50s, there was a movie called Helen of Troy, which influenced me. I really liked it. Well, Troy is a pretty good movie, and you could watch that if you chose to. Well, I hope to see you on Monday.